Hey, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Let's see what we're doing here. Let's see if we can get this thing going correctly. There we go. There you go. There you go. Glad to see all of you. This may come as a surprise to you. This is not milk. So if you missed the earlier live feed, well, then I congratulate you on making a great decision. If by some chance you saw the earlier live feed, that was the Scoville brothers abusing ourselves for the purpose of bringing more people into the lifeboat. It's the reason I do the silly things that I do. It's never really for any other reason. That is what it is all about every time. That was so bad. It really was. If you've never tried drinking that much milk, don't do it. You'll regret it. Now, there are a lot of people that have joined the lifeboat in the last 2 weeks. Gotten an influx of a lot of people. And yesterday, I snapped on somebody that I shouldn't have, and I apologized for it today. And apparently, he saw it, which makes me happy. But for people new on the boat, we're going to talk a little bit about the lifeboat and some of the things. Squirrel, let's be a good cat, huh? We're going to talk about some of the stuff about the lifeboat so that there can be no doubt about what exactly it is that we do, how we do it, why we do it, etc. The cat's absolutely insane. What are you doing? So the purpose of the lifeboat is pretty simple. It was originally designed with one very simple idea. And the idea was that there needs to be a place where people can come and own their past, talk about the things that they've done, and celebrate victories, whether those victories are 24 hours, 24 days, 24 years. Someplace where they can go and pump their fist in the air and be proud of the fact that they've overcome something that the rest of the world is not going to want to pat you on the back for. In fact, the rest of the world is going to want to tell you that you should have never had that habit in the first place. It's because you're weak. It's because any number of things that just are not kind. So that was the purpose of the lifeboat. And we made some rules in the beginning. 4 of them. One was that there will be no politics. Truthfully, that was meant so that people in the comments section don't start in with the, boy, the Republicans suck, followed by, no, it's you Democrats that suck. And we didn't want the comment section to ever sort of unravel and become anger. The microphone will have to talk about politics from time to time because politics and drugs intersect. Sadly, more often than they should, especially now. There are things like the legalization of drugs. There are things like drugs coming into the country. There are things like the fact that states can make drugs legal and the feds can keep the drug illegal, which causes a whole lot of very strange overlap. These are things that have to be discussed. If your channel is about drugs and addiction, there's no way to not discuss those issues. Sadly, we have found ourselves in a place where there are hundreds and hundreds of people who are dying every day because of drug overdoses, and that's something that has to be discussed. We don't talk about God. I'm a born-again Christian. I believe Jesus died on the cross and rose 3 days later for the remission of sins so that people could get into heaven. I don't force that down anyone's throat. I also do not deny it. When I say this isn't a religious channel, once again, it's because people in chats like to tell other people why they're going to hell. I don't find anything redemption or redemptive in that at all. I don't want people in the comment section arguing over whose God's better, right? And I don't come to the front of the room and say, if you don't follow this God or that God, you're never going to get sober and I don't go down that road. I don't deny my faith. I don't ask anyone to deny theirs. If you're in the comment section and you want to say, Buddha was, the reason that I was able to get sober, God bless you. That's fine. It's when we start saying things like, you're wrong with that and you're going to hell because you think that Buddha, all of that crap isn't going to fly. So that was really important. And the most important one is that mean people suck. We don't want mean people on the boat. Ideally, what that meant was there are people who come here and really let some very heavy stuff out. They talk about things, especially when someone comes on and does an interview. In the early days of the boat, we had trolls who enjoyed saying some of the cruelest and most hateful things to people. The one that really jumped out was a person that talked about a horrendous sexual experience involving a relative. And a troll said, "Did you enjoy it?" And the pain that I got out of that was something that made me want to hunt that person down, which is not healthy for a guy like me. It really isn't, especially because of the life that I led prior to getting sober, prior to being saved. So that's really what those rules were put into place for. You understand? And something I have said from the very beginning is, if you want to hear about the things that I believe, reach out to me. I will be more than happy to talk to you about my beliefs off air at length. You want to talk politics? You want to talk God? You want to talk anything that I don't feel comfortable discussing on the lifeboat? Reach out to me. There's a ton of ways to get a hold of me, and most of you know them because I was showing my brother Johnny, because he's in town. I was giving him a little perspective on just how much interaction there is between the host and the crew. The number of emails that we get every day, the number of people who reach out on Messenger, or the people who reach out through text, it's amazing. And it has to be. So on that note, a big shout out to Heather Joy and the work that she's doing on the boat, because it's absolutely amazing. And I'll tell you something, people, I don't think you can imagine just what a baptism by fire this is. When we think of Heather doing the boat, or we think of anybody that comes and sits in the chair and does a lifeboat episode, you think about public speaking, because it's the first thing that most people associate with what we do here. And it's also the number one fear of people. Worldwide, more people would rather do anything than have to speak in public. And that includes staring into a camera or anything else. But that's not really what I'm talking about. What really makes this unbelievable is the interaction that you have with the people on the boat. Because people will reach out to you and tell you the stories of why they're getting high. There are people who have already unraveled the onion. And a lot of times, as I've said before, many times what is causing you to want to get high is painfully obvious. If you were horrendously abused, as a child, and spent the first decade of your life being abused, any kind of abuse, that drives a lot of people to use, right? And it doesn't require peeling back the onion. If you had a great childhood and your parents loved you and everything else, and you're still getting high, it's probably going to be a little bit more of an effort to peel that onion back and find out what the problem is. But if it's obvious to you, then when you reach out to the host, whether that host is me or whether that host is Heather or anyone else, you're going to share that with them. And sometimes it is the most rewarding thing in the whole world when you can talk to somebody and get them to a place where they feel better about where they are. Nothing in the world will make you feel better. It'll also rip your heart out, stomp up and down on it, and sometimes toss it against a wall. And that is the reality of the lifeboat. So to Heather, my hat is off. She's doing unbelievable work here, both on and off the air. And it's not an easy thing to do. And she's doing it with courage and with grace and with dignity. And that's really great stuff. It really is. Now, as far as clowning around, the Systroming video is the one that really jumps out at everybody, because there hasn't been another one since. And it was a bit of a challenge, kind of a video, to try to get through that without retching. Today, we did another challenge video. If you haven't seen it, if you're someone that probably doesn't want to watch the captain hurl viciously for about 4 seconds with an unbelievable gurgling sound, kind of one of these numbers. It's pretty extreme. It's one of the, I've done a lot of vomiting. I'm not sure I've ever done one that nasty. And fortunately, we have it on film. Honestly, the way we were filming, I kind of thought it might be off camera. It is most assuredly not off camera. So one second here. Tommy Bird says, I remember it was always a total nerve-wracking experience to speak in front of even small groups of people. But I got to ride that wave but you got to ride that wave or get run over by it. That's true. I would be willing to say that I probably spent more time talking in front of people than 99% of people who walk the planet are in the course of their lifetime, because it is what I did. It's a different kind of pressure when you're discussing something that has a direct effect on somebody's life that isn't financial, or it isn't, I'm going to try to get you excited about being a better person. If you're talking about something as pivotal to life as addiction and recovery, it's heavy. It really. Scoob, I'm sorry to hear that. Scoob says, I'm too tired at the moment to talk. If I could think of something else, please do. Think of something else. And that's one of the things that you're going to find if you're new to the lifeboat is what I'm doing here is the least important thing that happens on this channel. The most important thing on this channel is what happens in the comment section. When people share what's going on in their life, when someone comes and says, you know what, I can't talk at the moment. The world is pressing in on me from all sides. That's something that can go a long way to really helping people. And it's sort of the backbone of the lifeboat. Now, there are things that we talk about here that have become kind of the basis of everything that, it's everything that I did. Now, I don't care how you get sober. I really don't. Whether you use 12 steps or whether you use anything else. If you watch Tommy Hurl play it at half speed. Oh, that's funny. It really is. That's funny. I talk about what worked for me because I don't have a point of reference to talk about something that didn't work for me. We don't force anybody into any mold. If you want to go the 12-step route, fantastic. It's worked for so many people. And one of the beautiful things about the 12-step is that if it does work for you, then anything else that you have going on in your life, you can apply 12 steps to as well. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, whether it's the phone, whether it's treating somebody you love badly, no matter what it is, if you can identify it as a problem and go down the same list, it's going to help you with everything. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. And it didn't work for me because of how it was set up. The steps themselves are fantastic. I really believe that. It's when someone has to stand up in front of a room of people that they've never met and start to talk, and early on, it's something that is so intimidating that it drives a lot of people right back into the life. And one of the other things that I struggled with was if you come to the door and you're under the influence, they don't want you there. That's pretty heavy. That really is heavy. To me, that is absolutely the worst thing in the world. Truthfully, it was one of the biggest motivators to me to do what I do on the lifeboat, was to have some place that when you got here, no one was going to turn you away, nor were they going to judge you or do anything else. Trying to influence and change someone's life in a positive way when they are reaching out from rock bottom is a huge responsibility. It is. And I applaud and respect anyone who can do that and take that on in any way. And here's the thing. I got into this and I didn't do that, right? In the very beginning, it was primarily what I was doing was just shooting videos. There was none of the heavy interaction that there is now. And we've talked about this before on the boat, but if you're new to it, we would shoot a video that would get 80 views and 200 comments. So it became really evident to us that more people wanted the interaction than just needed to hear somebody talk. So we changed to a live format. I'm sorry, people. I am literally sweating milk. I can't tell you what that stuff does to you. It is really, really not that great a thing to do. It really, it's something that you will feel for a very long time after the fact. And that is most assuredly a fact. I love the chat interaction too. It is what makes this fantastic. Mr. Ray says, when I first started on this channel, I was a raging alcoholic. And he was. The fact that he's able to come here and say that, I remember talking to him a couple of times when he was deep in the life and under the influence. But it has been it's been fantastic to see him come full circle. So when I talk about what worked for me, I went with a different program, a gentleman by the name of Q. And if you're new to the lifeboat, Q was somebody that picked me out literally walking across a prison yard. And after having listened to me talk to other people, hello, JJ, And he came up and said, "You are the smartest dumb person." No, he may have said, "You're the dumbest smart person." I think that's what he said. "You are the dumbest smart person I've ever met in my entire life." And I said, "Gee, I'm not sure if that's a compliment." He did everything within his power to explain to me that I had an opportunity to walk out of that place and live a better life. He didn't. Sadly, he did something before he was an adult that is going to keep him in prison for the rest of his life unless I'm lucky enough to do something along the way to help him get out. And we're trying. I promise you, that's my goal, my number one goal. But he had a very simple approach. His belief was this. His belief was that very often when somebody decides, yes, Johnny is hurting too, to be sure. His belief was that very often when someone says, I can't do this anymore, I'm miserable, I can't be a junkie anymore, I can't be an alcoholic anymore, I can't be a crackhead, and I'm using the terms intentionally because at that point, that's what you are. That's what you think of yourself. So what ends up happening is you hate yourself. We've all been there. You get to the point where you no longer have any respect for yourself at any level, right? At any level. So his idea was, instead of the usual, you need to do this for you. If you're not doing it for you, don't waste your time. Go and don't come back until you're ready to do it for you. Well, that's not something that made a lot of sense to him. And I'll be honest, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So the approach was different, and the approach was very simple. You got a piece of paper, and you wrote down every reason that you need to quit, the things that make you want to no longer do this. And very often, and I've read a lot of people's page one lists, and very often it is people that say, it is my daughter, it is my son, it is my parents, it is, often it's people that we love more than ourselves. The lifeboat is part of my story. When people ask how I got sober, the lifeboat is always mentioned. I love that. I really do. I love that. That is so cool. Boy, is that cool. I mean it. That's heavy. And I love that. So we make out this list. And once that page is done and you realize that there are things out there worth quitting for, even if you don't love yourself, even if you're not really thinking that you're worth saving, well, there are people out there that you're willing to quit for. Now, at some point, does that have to transition into doing it for yourself? Absolutely. And the truth of the matter is it's semantics. Because if you say, I want to quit for my daughter, what you're saying is, I want to be there for my daughter. I want to be a good father, right? You're doing it for yourself. But early on in the game, it's so hard to say, I want to be a better person. I want to be. It's easy when you relate it to other people. So that was the first step. And the second step was viciously honest. Viciously honest. You start writing down what people would say about you, not how you would describe yourself, because we're liars, especially when you're just getting ready to get off of a substance. You're not an honest person. I wasn't. Maybe you are. Maybe you guys are different. I was certainly not an honest person. I was an absolute pathological liar when it came to saying what I had to say in order to continue to get high. So the assignment was, if there are 5 or 6 people who know you better than anyone on the planet, and they know that if they describe who you are, no one is ever going to read what they're about to write down, what would they say? And I remember walking back to, I originally got sober because I wanted to stay out of jail. It wasn't until after I had a little time under my belt and I realized how much better of a life it is. Boy, that's so true, right? That was a huge one for me. That was a huge one for me. And it was on my list. I don't ever want to go back here. I do not ever want to go back here. And that was a really, really big thing. Tommy Bird says, yeah, at least for me, all I could ever bring to thought or action simply for myself alone was just to get high, because it was all I believed I deserved. Amen. Amen. And it was the only way you could feel comfortable in your own skin, right? That was me. That was me. I was uncomfortable in my own skin unless I was high. And all I knew was that when I wasn't high, silence was so loud, it felt like the world was closing in on me. And I couldn't talk. I was nervous. Everything was just so overwhelming. And then I would get high and all that would go away. For a little period of time, I would feel normal, or what I thought normal was. So I ran up to Q and I said, "Here you go, man. This is what my friends would say about me if I wasn't there." And he said, "Good Lord, man. Would that take you an hour?" I said, "Yeah, right around there, an hour, hour and a half." He said, "No, man. This is going to take you a long time. Like, you're unraveling who you are. This is as honest as you're ever going to be." And by the time I was done, it was a very, very long list of things that people would say and how they would describe me. And a funny thing happens. By the time you're getting to the end of that second page, you are really being honest about who you are. It's a sneaky way to get someone to start really talking about who they are. If you start that process with, my friends would say this, by the end, you're writing who you really are. And when that was done, I was at the lowest I had ever felt in my life. I knew I was a drug addict. I was in prison. I was at the lowest point I could possibly be at. The woman that I was married to had just served me with divorce papers. My father was in failing health. There was really no way to get any lower than where I just was. And the beauty of his system was the third page. And the third step was, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? How would you like people who know you to describe you? If you could live in a perfect world where you could choose how someone would view you, what would you want them to say? And I wrote, I want them to say that I'm honest. I want them to say that I care about others more than I care about myself. I wanted them to say that I was a man of God. I wanted them to say, and I made this entire list up. And it's a beautiful thing, because you go from feeling at your absolute lowest to where you realize that maybe you're just not worth saving, to I'm going to save myself. And I'm not just going to save myself. I'm going to build myself into exactly what I want to be and who I want to be. And that may sound really odd if you're new into sobriety, but you literally can rebuild a new human being from the ground up. And you can make that human being the person that you always wanted to be and never were. If you've been on the boat for any length of time, you will hear me make references to either page 2 or page 3 Tommy, because there's a really big difference between who I used to be and who I am today. In fact, it's almost staggering. Tommy Bird says, "It's so funny now because I hated that silence myself. Actually, maybe even feared it. Now I'll take all the peace and quiet I can get." I guess I never really thought about that way before. It's, you know what? I still struggle with it. I still struggle with silence, but not like I used to. Not like I used to. Now I like some background noise, and I think I probably will always be that way. If there's a little music playing in the background, or if I go to sleep, I like to sleep to black noise. That in the background is really, will drive you crazy. For me, anyway. I forget what ANTS is. ANTS is an acronym for automatic negative thoughts. Automatic negative thoughts. These are the things that tell you to go get high. You're not worth this. You're not going to make it anyway. Why are you even wasting your time trying? How many times have you tried to get sober? You never make it past 3 weeks. So why would you even make yourself hurt for 3 weeks? Why don't you just go get high now? By the way, your parents never loved you. By the way, every girl you've ever been with cheated on you. By the way, and it's just one negative thought after another that you have no control over, right? Ants are awful. They are absolutely awful. Now, one of the beautiful things of this entire program is that we learn how to get a hold of that. We learn some things through this program that are just factual, and they're just science, and there's really no arguing with them. For instance, we have 60,000 individual thoughts a day, unique thoughts every single day, 60,000 of them, right? How many of them are automatic negative thoughts? If by some chance you are in early stages of recovery, I'd guess half of them, maybe more. So we learn how to take an automatic negative thought and get it the hell out of your life, right? Get up, get out of wherever you're at, because if automatic negative thoughts are coming and they're coming one right after the other, if you change everything that you are getting in for sensory, if you change what you're looking at, if you change what you're smelling, if you change what you're hearing, if you change all of that, and in the meantime, maybe get the body moving, right? Pop the door, get outside, walk for 10, 15 minutes. You will not have automatic negative thoughts. And why is it magic to walk? Yeah, you know what it is. Because as you're walking, your visual that you're looking at is changing every 2 seconds. So you're walking and the automatic negative thoughts, they're still in the back of your head and they're going, this is that thing that, it's just needling at you. And you go, hey, did they paint that house? Right? I mean, everything you're looking at, I swear to you, that house used to be gray. Hey, look, a bird, right? Ducks. You're getting your senses bombarded by new stuff, right? I need a dog that don't eat a lot, can jump into a car smallish, but not hawk bait as a traveling buddy. Smallish, but not hawk bait. Wharton, what a great way to put it. I would absolutely recommend getting a pet. I would. That's a personal thing. But I absolutely, yes, I'm sorry. Nits are nitazines or phytonitazines. It is a bathtub version of an opiate. It is to opiates what methamphetamine is to amphetamines. This is the opportunity to take a bunch of ingredients, mix them up in the sink, and come up with a pill that is stronger than morphine or heroin or, sadly, fentanyl. It can be as high as 20 to 50 times stronger than fentanyl. And we know fentanyl kills, right? So, my body only wants chicken or beef right now. I'm going to recommend that you only give it chicken or beef. Stick with that, Scoob. Wisdom of the body. That's what my grandmother would call it, the wisdom of the body. So we learn little tricks, right? We learn a bag of tricks to get negative thoughts out of your head. And when those negative thoughts are gone, you start heading into a better place. This little fur ball does absolutely amazing things for my mental well-being. She does. Squirrel is amazing. There have been so many times where I'm just in one of those moods and I'm struggling to get out of it. And Squirrel walks in the room and looks at you and does the cute cat thing. And it's something that absolutely changes my mindset. Now, does that work for everybody? If you're not a cat person or you're not a dog person, yeah, maybe not. But it was a beautiful opportunity because I brought this little creature into my life, and this cat has never seen me high. This cat has never seen me looped. This cat has never had to go to the bathroom in a dirty litter because I didn't do something right. And that was a huge thing for me. Do you understand? That's an absolutely huge thing for me. Now, if you hear nothing else today, hear two things. Number one, if you're going to watch me vomit, you should do it at half speed because apparently that's very funny. The other thing that I want you to hear is that the backbone of everything that is going to make your life better for the rest of the time that you're on this planet is going to take place when pen is put to paper, stylus is put to an iPad, fingers are put to a keyboard, but you take the thoughts that are in your head and you get them out of there. I promise you, this is life-changing. And there is nobody on the boat that has begun this process, stuck with it for 2 weeks, and then come back and said to me, doesn't work. It's a waste of time. There are so many people that have fought me on this tooth and nail, and I'm not upset about that because I fought Q longer than any of you ever fought me. In fact, I'd lie to him and say, yeah, I started doing it. I did a little, I'm starting to write it down. And Q was just great because he'd go, great, let's look at him. I don't need to read him. I just want to see how much you've written. And I would have to look at him and go, well, I haven't really gotten a whole lot done. And he'd say, it's not bad enough that you're not journaling, but you're lying to me. You're still wanting to be something that you're not. You want to be accepted as if you're doing it, but you don't want to do the work to be accepted. And it would make me hang my head. Amazingly, he never judged me for it once. He never judged me for anything. He knew what judgment does to addicts. If you fall down in the process, you get back up, right? You dust yourself off and you keep walking. I don't encourage people to relapse, but it is part of this process. There's no two ways about that. It's part of this process. We believe here on the Lifeboat that there are two kinds of relapses, good ones and bad ones. There may even be a third called a great one. But a good relapse is one that you figure out why it happened. Instead of just going, yeah, you know what? I was doing great and then I got loaded on Friday night. Okay, why? what happened? At what point did you start to relapse? Because one of the other things, and this is a fact, I don't care who you are, this is a fact, right? Whether you do 12 steps, whether you do this program, whether you do any program in the world, this is a stone cold fact. Relapse is a process. Relapse is a process that takes a different amount of time on each relapse. Sometimes it takes a week. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes a month. It can take a year. But what happens is you stop moving forward. You understand? You stop moving toward success and you start moving back toward where you used to be. How do you know that that happens? Well, you don't, do you? You know because you write things down. And then at the end of each week, you read, skim through what you've written. And my brother Johnny said it beautifully. You'll realize that you've written the same thing 10 times, right? Really, you've written the same thing 10, 12 times. So on that good relapse, you figured out exactly why you started, where you made the turn to go the wrong direction, what it was that triggered you, not to get high, because it's a process, but triggered you to start moving in the opposite direction. You figure out what that happened. That's a good relapse. A great relapse is the last relapse. That is the relapse that you figure out exactly why, to the point where it is never going to happen again. Not a Christian channel, not a religious channel. My great relapse brought me into check with God for the first time in decades, 3 of them. I realized that for me, my relapses always started when I stopped praying. When I stopped making that the focus of the end of my day, the beginning of my day, and during my day, if I was not in contact with my higher power, I was in relapse. Plain and simple. The relapse might even take a couple of years, but I'm in relapse. And I realized at that point that I can't ever go back there, right? And I also learned a lot of other things on my great relapse. I learned that if I kept God the focus of my life, then all kinds of other small things started to fall into place. I learned little things that seemed so insignificant, but ended up being huge pillars of my life. If my clothing is on the floor, I'm going in the right direction. If I'm not hanging stuff up on hangers, I'm going in the wrong direction. And if I'm not making my bed in the morning, forget about it. Forget about it. The idea is that you train yourself for success. You train yourself for success. You continue to move yourself forward. I heard that. Sorry, that was really funny. I wish that you were hip to that because it was really, really funny. You and Johnny still tasting milk? Sadly, I will be tasting milk for a couple of months. But you get up in the morning, you make your bed, you make sure that the hygiene, all of the things that normal people take for granted, right? Successful people don't kick their sheets to the bottom of the bed, jump out of bed, put on the clothes they wore from the day before that they pick up off the floor. That's not how successful people live. Successful people journal. Successful people have goals. They take those goals, right, which are here. They're called dreams when they're up here. They write them down on a piece of paper and they become a goal. And their goals are quite simple. What do I want? Why do I want it? What am I willing to do to get it? And it has to be in that order. You say, well, what difference does it make if I just write? No, I'll tell you why it makes a difference. Right? Because if you decide that you want to be whatever, and when you get to the second, why do I want this? If you write down, because I'd like to drive a Ferrari and I'd like to sleep with women half my age and I would like to have a fat wallet, guess what? You're going to realize you're an idiot. And it doesn't matter because the first goal is a stupid goal. If that's what you want, if that's the reason you want it, it's a waste of your time and you're not going to get it. You're not. The framework for what is now the lifeboat started decades ago while I was still getting high. Really did. Called it the ounce of prevention and had it all drawn out, had business plans, had it looked at. But if you said, what is it you want to do? I say, I want to educate parents on how to raise drug-free kids. Why do you want to do it? Because there is so much money in this. It's staggering. like the amount of money that I can make doing this, right? Forget fame, because that'll come, but I mean money, the kind of money that you can't wrap your brain around. It's why nothing ever got off the ground. I didn't know enough to write what the goal was, why I wanted it, but now I do. And when this came around, I did it. I'm starting a YouTube channel, right? What is the goal? The goal is to start a channel where addicts can come and they can talk about their past without somebody calling them a dirtbag because they're a bank robber, or somebody that can, everybody there will go, good for you, man. You're 7 days sober. And if you relapse, the next day they'll go, good for you. You got 1 day under your belt, because they know what it's like. That's what I wanted to do. And when the second part came, why do you want to do that? Because it didn't exist when I needed it. There was no place like that when I needed it. And I wanted to make sure that nobody ever ended up having to wait in a parking lot for some dude that hated them to show up, to take their money and give them just enough dope so that they could feel normal for 6 hours, and keep doing that every single day, 2 and 3 times a day, until they get arrested and go to prison. That's why I wanted to do it. I didn't care if I got rich. I didn't care if I got successful. I didn't care if the channel got awards. I wanted to do it because it needed to be done. And what I was willing to do was, if I got to put in 4 hours a day, I'm willing to do that. And then it went to, if I got to put in 6 hours a day, I'm willing to do that. And then it got to a point where I'm willing to do whatever I got to do to try to help people. I know what I wanted to do. I knew what I was willing to do to get it. And the reason that I was willing to do it was solid. So if you're not putting a pen in your hand once a day, you're not going to get what you want. I promise you on that. And you know what? Tommy Bird says, journaling definitely taught me what my complete, what a complete ass jack I look like more and more. The shallow my actions, even my thoughts were. I hated those pages. Me too, brother. Me too. What a great comment. And I'm telling you, he's a journaler. That man journals, because anyone who journals will tell you that the early pages were god awful. I go back now, and there are times I got to go back a couple of years. What was I thinking back then? Because I was in a better place. So I go back, and the books are labeled by year, or they're labeled by 6 months, or they're labeled by whatever. But you don't stop. You don't stop writing. And when you start journaling, your life is going to change. And I've watched it happen with me. I've watched it happen with Johnny. I've watched it happen with everybody that I care about. And I've watched it happen with so many people on the boat. And I get emails from people, and these are people that I correspond with all the time. Alan Ballantyne, absolutely a journaler. The DJ Daddio, this was such a difficult process for him. Journaling does not come easy to that man. Didn't come easy to me either. It did not come easy to me. I hated it. I don't know that I could live without it. I sure as hell couldn't be successful without it. And it's this is what the lifeboat is all about. If you're new to the boat, I apologize that I don't do these shows often enough. I get to a point very often where I just assume that everybody here's been here forever, because so quickly we all feel like family. So I see a name like Ultra Maga, right? And I think, I don't remember when Ultra Maga got here, because it seems to me like he's always been here. Or I look at Miss Dragon. By the way, go look at Miss Dragon's last video, because it's fire. It's fire. She was able to do in a few minutes what took me 35 minutes yesterday. And she didn't come across as a jackass at any point, and I did. So I would go check out Miss Dragon. Please do. Please go look at it, because it needs to be seen. Can we get some prayers for Virginia? Please. Please. I would be really happy if we got some prayers for Virginia. She needs them. It's another thing, people. You know what? Nobody. Can you really be offended when someone says, hey, we're praying for you? I don't care what your belief is, man. Seriously, you want to light a candle for me? Light a candle for me. It's not something I understand, and I don't care. You want to do whatever you want to do to try to bring positive energy or thoughts or whatever to me? Please do. Please do. The way I do that is I pray and I ask other people to do the same. You know, Miss V, the wheels of justice move slowly, says Mark, and he's right. The wheels of justice absolutely move at a snail's pace. The good news, V, is this one's already over. And if you're new to the boat, this is a great example of, we've been going through this with V for way more than a year, right? This has been a part of her life, and we've prayed for her and we've talked to her, and she's had days that were awful and she's had days that we could celebrate. And it had to do with an ex who is just one of the lowest of the low lives on this planet. And I'm not a big fan of prison, but there are people who deserve to be there, and he's one of them. And it's just a great example of what the lifeboat is, because there's anybody that's been on the boat for any length of time knows what V went through, and we're celebrating with her. And when she had the bad days, we were there to have bad days with her. And it's really a community. There's just no way to, there's no way to look at it any other way. And I just missed one back here. Where was it? Now I've lost it. But it was a comment from Michelle Smokes, and thank you. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad Monk is here. Again, I don't know how long Monk's been here, but it feels like he's been here forever, and it was just another one of those people that got here and acclimated instantly. Noah James, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that it really is one of the. I'm getting caffeine. I found quarters. You go, girl. Thank you. Did everybody see Miss Dragon's video? You really need to check that one out. You absolutely need to check that out. But this is a community. And if you watch YouTube, you're going to hear people say, I don't have subscribers. I have family members. Every single channel will say it. And I know a lot of YouTubers, and I know guys that say really, really awful things about the people in their audience. I know people that don't like them, for real. And they will still get on there and say, we're a family. We're not. I'm telling you, the crew here. Chili Phil, good to see you. Chili Phil is a beast. Chili Phil is on. I know he's knocked down one tube of terror and is getting ready to do another one immediately, which just blows my mind, because those are tough. Those slow judicial wheels will run over and back up a couple of times for us unfortunate addicts. They need another target to focus on, and our government is seriously lacking compassion. Amen. Amen. Sarah says, this is my family. I love you all. And you know what? There's a lot of that goes along. This is a true family, Noah, no question. And we're glad you're here. We really are. I'm glad you joined it. So I'm hoping that this show at least brought a little bit more into focus what it is we do. I don't do this enough, so that there are people that who are new to the boat, and this is a really confusing channel if you just show up, right? This boat is unsinkable. You're absolutely right, it is. And you know why it's unsinkable? I promise you, people, there are incredible things happening behind the scenes. I can't tell you about all of them. I really can't. I can tell you this. I can tell you that there are people talking to us about larger platforms and exposure beyond the wildest dreams that you can imagine. It will mean that there will be times where I will be doing a lot less shows, because I will probably be filming something somewhere. This is in there. This is a reality. We have been discovered, for lack of a better way to put it. I failed. It got me at the 5-minute mark. I had a long day and it didn't prepare myself better. Chili Phil, never again say that. Never again say that. People, if you've never eaten a peanut out of a tube of terror, then this is something that you may not get. But if you ate 2 peanuts out of a tube, you're a beast. Trust me on this. I ate a tube of terror once in 43 seconds and then drank a bottle of tincture. And I'm telling you right now that of all the things I've ever done in my life, the tube of terror is the gnarliest, the nastiest, the most painful. So if you're getting past one peanut, you're a beast. There's no failure. There isn't. There are times where you hit it out of the park and you're really successful, but just trying that is one of the most unbelievable attempts and one of the most unbelievable things. That's shoving every single, he ate half the tube. Are you kidding? That's every chip into the center of the table. You did not fail. And I'll prove this. Yeah. Boy, Ultra MAGA, you nailed it. That's right. The Admiral says it's unsinkable. Now, forget that they built the Titanic in Belfast. Good point. Good point. You should have drank a gallon of milk afterwards. Todd G, good call. That's exactly what I should have done. That is exactly what I should have done. To me, it's a rock solid system. It's a rock solid system of support that I've never had in 20 years of drugs and abuse, and living in true fear and loathing. You know what? I love that, Tommy Bird. I really do. No, I did not ask for any milk, but thank you.
I can get some.
No, I appreciate that.
It's a whole gallon.
Yeah. Maybe you should have a glass.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm all set.
I'm telling you, people, from this point on, if I eat chocolate chip cookies, I'm dunking them in Coca-Cola. For real. Drinking my coffee black. I have developed lactose intolerance in less than 15 minutes of beverage consumption. I made an error. And you know something? I always say, you know what? If you've never tried a tube of terror, you really ought to, because it's just one of those things that is so overwhelming that you got to have it. Dry cereal, Todd knows. Yeah, dry cereal, if cereal at all, because it'll make me think of milk. But there are challenges that are worth doing because they push you, and there's a feeling of accomplishment, a sense of accomplishment when it's over. I'm going to say that milk's not that challenge. That gallon of milk thing is not that challenge. I have not been that uncomfortable, and I can't remember how long. When the camera's turned off, if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. But when the camera's turned off, that was not the end. That was not the end. First of all, for those of you who had seen it, I lost it. And you see about a half a gallon of milk come out in a couple of seconds. It's just bizarre. After we stopped filming, that happened again, almost exactly the same way. Cookies dipped in Coca-Cola is good with dipping in your coffee is good, as long as the coffee's black. Black coffee, 7th. I'm telling you, I am sworn off of milk. I crushed it the first time. It's on my Instagram and TikTok. That's awesome, Phil, and I'm so glad that you got it filmed. It is a really, really difficult challenge. I'm telling you, Johnny Scoville's Tube of Terror. Now, as I said, if you don't finish the challenge, that does not mean you fail, and I want to tell you a name. There's a guy out there. His name is Chili Chinglish. That's CH, not English, but Chinglish. Chili Chinglish. And the guy's a legend. He really is. He's a legend. And he's one of the nicest people on all of YouTube, on all of social media, anywhere. Super intelligent guy. Really, really kind to a fault. I love the guy. I really do. And he's got some health issues. We can keep him in our prayers. He's really going through it. But his attempt at the Tube of Terror is, I think, the greatest that I've ever seen. He doesn't finish it, but he sure as hell didn't fail either. That dude went hard to the paint. I mean, there was no quit in his game. It was beautiful. It really was. And he does end up a little bit with, like I did today with the milk, but he went hard until he could not go hard. And I think that makes absolutely amazing. Today marks 17 days without alcohol for Chili Phil. That is the coolest thing in the whole world, man. Tube of Terror is great, but that is epic. For real. That's important. 17 days, people. That's going to a place right here where we can celebrate that, because 17 days is huge. Dennis N., good to see you. People, I anticipate doing an interview tomorrow with Dennis N., and I am very much looking forward to it. I really am. There has been issues with it, and there's been issues on both sides. I'm sorry. It's not going to be tomorrow night. It's going to be the night after, because tomorrow night there is something else that is scheduled here, and I didn't know that when I first talked to Dennis. But Dennis, not tomorrow, but the day after, we are doing his show right here at this same bat time, same squirrel time. I apologize. Don't. She looks really, really unhappy that I said that. Brandon, 16 days sober. I love it. No group has ever reached out and truly locked on with the support and love, with the complete understanding instead of judgment. I would never have thought it possible from people that I've never looked in the eyes. Me too, brother. Me too. Trophy in a box. Yep, the trophy is in the box, but Chili Phil, you have a trophy. Normally we pull it out. We have a trophy for this. Unfortunately, because I'm getting ready to move, I have it packed, so it is in the box. But we are proclaiming the trophy in the box for Brandon and for Chili Phil. 17 and 16. That's awesome. It really is. That's awesome. And I had temptation today, but I held off like a champ. That's the spirit. That's the spirit. And if you feel like you're slipping, Chili Phil, then you got to reach out to somebody. If you get right to the end and you think, oh man, you know what? I'm just going to make that phone call, because the opposite of addiction is connection. You hear that? The opposite of addiction is connection. It's not sobriety. When you're an addict and you're in the life, you pull back from everybody. Even if you're in a room with 25 people getting high, you pull back from everybody. Your problems, your fears, all of the things, you pull them inside and you hold them tight. And until those things get out, and I mean out, till they're out into the world, you're going to continue to do exactly what you do. And that's sad, but it's a fact. It's a stone cold fact. The opposite, you do need to do a pepper challenge. Make no mistake, you need to do a pepper challenge. So peeps, that brings us to about the, let's see something. Come on. There we go. We are at the 52-minute mark. We go an hour normally. We're not going to make an hour today. I am going to be ending this feed now. And you know what? We're all friends and family here. So I'm going to just be really honest. The milk is still going to work on me, and I am absolutely going to have to. I could have chewed styrofoam blocks. Yeah. You did? Yep. I was a sober, dry drunk. Well, full of hope. We're glad you're not anymore. With quitting drink, I used my brother as motivation. He's been sober for 21 years, and he was good for him, man. 21 years. That's epic. I told you one more, and you have to dig it out. Right. All right, peeps. Yeah, I don't want to get too graphic with you, but I am going to have to. Yes, thank you, Todd G. That pretty much sums it up. Appreciate you. So, people, I will be back not tomorrow night, but the next night with Dennis, and we are going to do a fantastic interview. I am really excited about it. Look at that little paw hanging over the edge. This is the star of the show. That's a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. I love you. If you haven't seen the milk, don't miss it. You'll enjoy it. I promise you. I didn't. Have a great night.